So this job came in from a customer that had originally contacted me to clean out the leaves on their gutter. And it was just a very straightforward, simple request for something they wanted done. Over the coming years, it actually turned into many different types of tasks that she would call me out to complete on her home. And one of those things ended up being fixing her outside fence gate. And this is a very common problem that pretty much everybody deals with in their lifetime if you've got a fence gate in which that door starts to sag, starts to be difficult to open and close. Something ends up getting out of place in some way, and that's what happened in her case. The bottom of the door started to sag and was dragging against the concrete sidewalk, which was making it really difficult to open and close the gate. And then also the handle latch was also not lining up on top of that. And both of those things are common issues. And so I've gotten used to doing this type of repair. And so I eventually purchased a small size saw that is a great size for getting down in difficult areas that might have other things in the way or just tight spot to even try to fit a saw. And that allows me to cut the bottom of the fence. I like to leave an inch gap on the bottom of the gate. One, just to make sure that it is going to very easily open and close. But as time goes on, some of that sagging will continue to happen in incremental ways. And that just makes sure that it's just going to continue to function a lot longer by having some extra room so that you'd have a lot more time to work with before some kind of problem like this might happen again with it, because these fences do continue to move over time. The other thing I did was drive a stake into the ground and put a latch strap so I could open up the gate, because that would allow me to get a clean cut all the way to the end, and I wouldn't have to risk cutting into the normal part of her fence with my saw. And so that was just a little trick to get a clean cut and make sure I was only cutting what I wanted to cut. Next, it was time to realign the handle so that that would be lined up correctly again. And the first step after removing it is to fill in the previous screw holes that were there, because a lot of times those are going to be very close to the new holes that you'll need to drill into. So to refill that back in and make it essentially a solid piece of wood again, I used a number of toothpicks and glue to fill in that wood and then break it off so that that would be filled back in. And I've thought about this more over time, and some other things that I'm going to be experimenting with in the future are actually those stake skewers, which are round pieces of wood that are usually a little bit bigger than a toothpick. Sometimes those are the perfect size for other applications. But in this case, I also thought of using dowel pins. So those are just round pieces of wood that are already created in a way that would be ready to go, and you could just hammer them in. And so those are some new ways that I'm going to be experimenting with in the future, just because it might be just about the perfect size to hammer in there and cut off or break off or do whatever you needed to do. And so next, it was time to get the new handle back on. So it was just a matter of lining that up, getting the latch to be right in the center where it needs to be, mark the new holes, and then put the screws in its new place. Anytime I'm doing a repetitive job like this, I will start to build an organizer kit of all of the different supplies and tools that I'll need so that I can just grab that particular kit with me, take it to the job, and I'll have everything I need. And so one of the things in that kit is some black Rust-Oleum glossy spray paint, which will allow me to repaint any old pieces that might need it. Or sometimes you're bringing new pieces, new washers and bolts, and so I'll paint those so that everything will just be matching up and looking like it all belongs together. So I had done a little bit of touch-up paint on this door handle before putting it back on. And once I got it positioned and screwed in, it was working just like new again. This was a very big difference in the way that it was able to be used before. It really was difficult to try to open and close this gate, and now it was just effortless. and worked perfectly. And she was so happy with how well this now worked that many months afterwards, on 2 separate occasions, she texted me just to tell me how happy she was to have that gate working so well, because right on the other side of that gate were her trash cans. So it was a very common trip that she was having to make out there to open that gate and get to the trash and obviously take the trash out every week. So it was such a huge change for that to be working so well. And that is so common with many things like this around the house, that you don't really realize how much it was bugging you or just making you unhappy for it not to be working correctly, that after it's working correctly, you're just so grateful and happy at how easy it's working now and how much better it is. So it just makes it that much more enjoyable to do a job when you are able to achieve a satisfying result and see the difference yourself, and then also see how much the customer enjoys it as well. I show creatives how to get paid to do jobs just like this so they can become their own funding source and have the money and free time they need to pursue their artistic interests. I break it all down at cashcowartist.com. The link is in the description.